Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the All Sports Focus podcast. We are back here doing a little short hybrid episode here today. It's me and Ryan. Ryan, say what's up.
What's up, everybody?
It's just going to be me and Ryan tonight talking about the James Franklin hire at Virginia Tech, as well as a little NFL and college football recap from this past season. Should be about 15-20 minutes, nothing crazy. Then you'll expect the rest of the crew coming out tomorrow doing the first NBA episode of the season for All Sports Focus. So we're going to jump right into it, but real quick, we're going to cue the intro. All right, so starting it off, James Franklin of Virginia Tech, the first hire of this going to be crazy head coaching cycle in college football this offseason. And I'm very comfortable to say that it's starting off with an A+ in my book. Virginia Tech, I think right now, James Franklin, yes, things went down at Penn State and he wasn't able to win, go through all those factors. But what he did do was consistently win 10 freaking football games. And obviously, that's not the pride or joy of a team like Penn State or an Ohio State or an Alabama or a Georgia. Like, you want to win national championships. But for a program like Virginia Tech, in the ACC, we're going to really touch on that ACC part. But that right there, winning 10 games at Virginia Tech, I mean, that's a dream for Virginia Tech fans. I mean, where they've been recently, they've been awful. But here they are. Ryan, what are your just quick initial thoughts before we really dive in deep to everything else?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's an A+. If you're looking for somebody who's going to turn the program around, get them a consistent, you're not necessarily going to go out and win a national championship, but I don't think anybody was projecting Virginia Tech would in the next 10, 20 years anyways. And so if you're looking for a consistent coach who's going to keep your program relevant, who's going to win some games, and who's going to get fans in the stadium, then I think this is an A+ hire for that.
Yeah. Just the whole landscape of thing nowadays. To have a competitive team, you're gonna need some NIL money. You're gonna need that type of stuff. And in order to get that NIL money, you got to win football games. I mean, Virginia Tech right now, they're 3-7 and 2-4 in the ACC. Obviously, they fired their coach earlier this year, but Virginia Tech is like they were good like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Michael Vick time. I mean, you think of electric stadium entrances, you think of Virginia Tech and Enter Sandman. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
immediately a top 3 thing you think of. And a James Franklin, who obviously didn't ever really bring in top 10 recruiting classes at Penn State, but he was always in that top 15, top 20 range. And I fully expect him to be able to do that with Virginia Tech out in that East Coast Virginia area. There's a lot of talented football players there. You'll get into the Florida, you'll get some of the Florida pipeline, you'll get some of the Georgia pipeline. You'll even be able to go up north a little bit too. So there's plenty of avenues here. And I think it was so smart on James Franklin's part because obviously I think he should have been hired at Arkansas, Auburn, or one of those schools to try and rebuild some pride. But he goes to Virginia Tech in the ACC, and I don't think there's any question if he brings in a good class this year, why they shouldn't be able to compete to win the ACC next year. Don't you agree, Ryan? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it is going to a league that is notoriously, and this is even playing out this year, notoriously not overly strong. You could, like you said, he could have gone to the SEC to a maybe not necessarily an LSU or a Florida necessarily, but it could have gone to one of those mid-major SEC schools like a Mississippi State, a Arkansas, something where there's a little bit lower expectations, but the overall competition is rough all season. ACC is not necessarily the case. You've got a lot weaker across the board competition. You have a lot more of a clear path to the ACC championship game, to the playoffs. And honestly, I think the expectation is lower at Virginia Tech. I think the expectation, if you're at an LSU, at a Florida, at an SEC school, the expectation is you're going to win a national championship at some point, or you're going to be competing for one at least. And I think at Virginia Tech, it's just win games, do better than we were doing, and that's considered a success. And I think it gets away from some of the pressure that he was kind of facing at Penn State, where Penn State was expecting that we're okay, we're a top 3 team in the Big Ten. We should be competing for national championships every year. And I think that pressure's kind of gone.
Yeah, and I look back at the way it went down at Penn State. Obviously, we all said at the time it was time for that to happen, and those things kind of drive its course. I mean, it was like you look at Brian Kelly and LSU, and obviously the Northwestern, the UCLA losses were really ugly this year for Penn State. But I mean, he was in the college football playoff semifinals last year. He was one play away from being in the national championship. He's produced how many freaking first round picks from Penn State? He is a good coach. And you stack up him getting fired in this cycle, and then you stack him up against basically anybody except Lane Kiffin, whose name's getting tossed around in this coaching cycle. I don't know if I can confidently say that there's a coach better than him. That's names getting thrown around in this coaching cycle. Because immediately Penn State fires him, and names like Matt Rule come out. Names like Mike Elko, Kurt Signetti. What happens to all 3 of those guys? All get contract extensions.
Sign extensions.
So it's like, I don't know if Penn State's going to get a better coach than this. There's been talks of Chesney, the James Madison guy, but that's a big what if. I mean, you're going from James Madison, who very well might make the group of 5 spot this year, but they've played literally nobody. I mean, the Sun Belt is awful. I mean, they've been beating teams by 20, 30
Well,
points every week.
and my debate thing too is, if I'm a high level coach whose name's getting thrown around for these positions, and I'm looking at the financial opportunities that Florida and LSU have, and the recruiting opportunities that a school like LSU and Florida have versus Penn State, I mean, realistically, I'm taking one of those 2 SEC jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it would have been tough for James Franklin to move to one of those, just because I think they have higher expectations, and that's why both of those schools are looking for high name coaches. But I just think Penn State's going to become, it is now the 3rd best job opportunity, because it's in the Big Ten. So you're always having to play Kurt Signetti. Now you're going to have to play Ohio State, who's good every year. You have to play Oregon. You have to, I mean, let's look at just the travel alone, to have to fly out to the West Coast to play a USC, a UCLA, and Oregon one week, and then the next week you're flying east and playing Rutgers out in New Jersey. Like, versus the SEC is a lot. The travel is more realistic, and everything. The opportunities, I think, are just so much better in the SEC, that I don't, like you said, I don't know who Penn State's going to get, because I think they're going to have 3rd pick of whatever good big name coach comes out. LSU and Florida are going to fill their roles before Penn State does.
Sticking on that same topic, we're just going to real quickly, I mean, last thing I'm going to touch on here with James Franklin is there was talks him wanting the Florida State job. I think he kind of made it obvious that he wanted that Florida State job if Mike Norvell does end up getting fired. But I was watching a video today. Florida State, they would be paying the same buyout if they fired Mike Norvell today that they would be paying if they wait till the end of the season to fire him. And it sure sounds like they're going to move on no matter what. So if I'm Florida State, why were you not jumping on that opportunity to move on from him to bring in a James Franklin or somebody else? Because now you look at it, you're waiting. And I mean, this whole cycle is going to be insane. It's once the first domino falls, which the first domino did fall, and James Franklin, I'll say the second domino, the second big name school gets their job, is when things really start to take a full swing. when Lane Kiffin makes his decision this year, that is going to shape the entire coaching cycle. I mean, the entire thing.
Well, I think that'll be interesting because supposedly Ole Miss is giving him an ultimatum of the Egg Bowl next week.
Yeah, but then he
And even
said,
though he's denied it,
I was just about to say he denied it, but
he denied it, but I honestly think it's realistic that they did give something like that because if you wait much past that, now Ole Miss becomes the last one to get a new coach because now if you're waiting much more than that, you potentially have Florida has their new coach, LSU has their new coach, Penn State has their new coach, and now you have to wait for the fourth best coach still available to fill Lane Kiffin's role. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he stays, but that's for a different podcast.
yeah, we'll wait for the Lane Kiffin discussion. But my prediction right now is like you just said, Ryan. I think he stays at Ole Miss. I think this is Lane Kiffin's one of those guys you can just tell he kind of likes the attention. I mean, he's cocky. He's a great coach. He's cocky. He likes the attention, and honestly, I think this is what this is going to do is force Ole Miss to throw an absolute bag at him to keep him in Oxford. I think that's what ends up going to happen. He's going to
I
beat
think that's
Mississippi
why he's
State.
doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he's going to beat Mississippi State. They're going to get into the college football playoff. Maybe they sneak into the SEC championship if something crazy happens here in the last 2 weeks. But again, for another podcast. And maybe just maybe something happens. But if let's play the what if game here. If he leaves, let's say he takes the Florida job, then you got to think there's another A+ freaking job open up right there at Ole Miss. That makes the whole thing's a whole lot more interesting as well. But then you look at Florida and LSU, they've been targeting Lane Kiffin. What are they going to do if they don't get Lane Kiffin? We'll save all this. We're going to save all of the coaching cycle true talk. We just wanted to quickly address the James Franklin. Be expecting a coaching cycle podcast. I think we're planning on right now after the conference championship or the week prior to the conference championship weeks. Just kind of however that schedule lays out. Obviously, there's a big break in between the conference championship and the playoffs starting. I shouldn't say a big break. There used to be. Now there's only about 2 weeks. Yeah, be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for a special guest maybe of a fan of a couple teams talking who they want to pick. So that'll be a fun podcast here coming up. But then just quickly recapping this past college football week and NFL week. Obviously, the ACC is garbage. I don't know how else to put that. The team that is most likely going to make it is Georgia Tech, and they almost lost to Boston College if it wasn't for Haynes King, their Heisman contender quarterback. They didn't have him, they would be screwed. Notre Dame gets a big win. I think we can comfortably say Notre Dame's in now. I don't even know who they play at the end of the year, but they're in.
Yeah, I think they're in, and I think the ACC will put one team in, and that's it.
Yeah. For all the talk out there for people saying the ACC isn't going to make it in, that's just simply not going to happen. I mean, they're not going to pick whoever makes it in, either the American champion or the Sun Belt champion. They're not going to put that other conference in over a Power 4 conference. That's just simply never going to happen unless the ACC champion for some reason is like 6-5 or 7-5 and they win the conference championship miraculously.
I think the only way I see that happening is if Georgia Tech loses the next 2 weeks and Miami loses at least one of the next 2 weeks as well, and kind of your top 2 teams in the ACC both drop to like 3 or 4 losses.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't want to focus too much on the ACC because it's one of those things. Whoop-de-doo, you made the playoffs. You're probably going to get smoked by an Oklahoma or an Alabama in the first week. So, but
I
on
mean,
that,
what I want to talk about is how Kirby Smart is still the best coach in college football.
100%.
And
100%.
I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There is.
I mean, the guts that it took to be up 11, middle of the fourth quarter against a top 10 Texas team, and you execute an onside kick, probably the best I've ever seen it done in college football. After you went for it on fourth down 3 times the previous drive, including at your own like 38-yard line. That shows that Steve Sarkisian is a great top 10 offensive caller, head coach in college football, but Kirby Smart is in a league of his own in the SEC, and I don't even think it's particularly close.
No, not at all. I just think for Texas, really the game that is going to hurt Texas fans the next couple months is that Florida loss. Because, I mean, you look at the fact, yes, you lost to Ohio State, number 1 team in the country. You lost to Georgia, number 4 team in the country. They have an opportunity here at Texas A&M in the last week of the regular season here coming up. You eliminate that Florida loss, you're a 2-loss team. You beat them, you're in. And honestly, maybe even if you lose and you're a 3-loss team and your 3 losses are the top 3 teams in the country, top 4 teams in the country, you still might sneak in the bottom half there. You might sneak in the 10th spot. But that Florida
Yeah.
loss is like a big glaring red circle around your name because, oh, you lost to Florida, who, go Kentucky, beat by 35 freaking points. I don't know how, but
I think it's like the Alabama unranked losses last year, honestly. As far as it's just such a glaring red X across your resume to lose that game to a team that didn't even have their or ended up firing their coach halfway through the season.
mm-hmm.
You're peaking at the right time, and I don't think anybody would have faulted you for losing this game to Georgia going into Sanford Stadium and losing even the way that you did by 3 scores. I don't think anybody would really fault you for that, like you said, if not for the Florida loss.
All right, so real quickly here, just to wrap up the college football. Obviously, going into week 13, the week before Thanksgiving in college football, as known as the worst weekend of college football every year. That's just a commonly known thing. A lot of the good teams take bye weeks, or a lot of the good teams play crappy teams because what's coming up week 14, Thanksgiving week, is rivalry weekend, the best weekend of college football in the regular season, where Friday and Saturday we are going to have great games all weekend. So not much to talk about this coming weekend. I don't see much changes happening to the rankings this after this weekend because I seriously think there's one ranked matchup, and I think that's where College Game Day is going in USC and Oregon. I think that's literally the only ranked Oklahoma, Missouri. Missouri's only ranked because they have the second best running back in college football in Ahmad Hardy. Other than that, it's USC and Oregon, which actually will be a pretty good game because that will raise a lot of questions. If USC is able to pull off that win, I don't even want to think about that because then that is just going to bring up so many questions of, does Oregon deserve to be in the playoffs? Does USC deserve to be in the playoffs? Blah, 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 blah. Boom. So many crazy things would happen if they pull off that win, which is very likely. Don't get me wrong. It is very likely that that will happen. All right. So just real quickly here, we're going to touch on 3 minutes on the NFL. We want to keep this a nice short episode. Week 11 of the NFL. A lot of good games. There's a lot of high importance matchups, a lot of division matchups. Rams Seahawks, Panthers Falcons was another big one. Chiefs Broncos was obviously the biggest glaring one. And that's where we're going to start off real quick here is the 5-5 Kansas City Chiefs. The biggest flop of the season. And it's all going to be circled on these one score games. They lived and died on it last year. They lived on it last year. They're dying on it this year. 12-0 in one score games last year, 0-6 in one score games this year. They've got to win out here because the AFC wild card, unless the Broncos really piss down their leg here the last 7 weeks of the season, I don't see any way possible that they lose the AFC West. So you really got to focus in, if you're the Chiefs, on the Chargers. You need to split with the Chargers. You lost to the Jags already. You lost to the Bills already. You're playing the Texans here in a couple weeks. They've practically got to win out. You've got to go 12-5 if you want to say, like, be comfortably in. You may be able to sneak in at 11-6. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't really know. Obviously, there's a lot of things going wrong with the Chiefs. I don't want to spend too much time on the Chiefs. But I just feel like it's the whole thing's out of whack. I don't feel like you can put blame. I don't think you can just put the blame on Patrick Mahomes or just put the blame on the defense or any of that. I think it's the whole thing's just completely out of whack. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I think the offensive line has been terrible, especially as of late. There's been a lot of breakdowns, a lot of penalties. Mahomes hasn't been hitting receivers. The run game has been pretty much non-existent. And then on defensively, I mean, giving up a whole bunch of plays to Josh Allen 2 weeks ago, and continuing that trend with Bo Nix yesterday or 2 days ago playing against the Broncos. Yes, it wasn't as high scoring, but it allowed Bo Nix to drive and make plays when he needed to and find holes in the defense to convert a couple long third downs on that game winning field goal drive. And I think it's kind of been the name of the game with this Chiefs defense this year is that we haven't seen the quarterback pressures from Chris Jones, from Karloftis, from some of those other guys that we're used to seeing, and I think that's exposing some glaring holes in the Chiefs secondary.
Absolutely. All right. So the one last thing I really want to touch here on, obviously, the Bills got a huge win over the Bucks this last weekend. Josh Allen had his MVP game. I think with that game, that 6 touchdown game, he kind of played himself back in the MVP conversation. I don't think you can say he's the MVP right now just because of how well some other guys are playing. Obviously, like a Jonathan Taylor, like a Drake May, like those guys, those have been great all year. If Josh Allen is able to keep up, obviously he's not going to score 6 touchdowns every week. That's not physically possible. But staying up on that pace, he played himself right back into this conversation. But the one thing I want to talk about here is December football in the NFL is going to be absolutely amazing this year. I'm going to say the last second half of November and and December will be amazing. Every single division is within the lead, and the team in second place is within 2 games or 1 game in every division but one this year. The NFC East is the only one. Eagles at 8-2, and then the Cowboys are at 4-5-1. Eagles are going to win the NFC East. Everybody knows that. Everybody knew that already. That was going to happen this year. But every other division, the AFC East, you got the New England Patriots at 9-2, the Buffalo Bills at 7-3. The AFC North, Steelers 6-4, Ravens 5-5. The AFC South, really want to focus on this one real quick. Indianapolis Colts are 8-2, Jags are 6-4, Texans are 5-5. But the Colts don't have an easy schedule here, and all of these guys play each other. All those 3 teams I just mentioned, and the Colts, Jags, and Texans play each other twice in these last 8 weeks of the season. The Colts play the Chiefs, and they play the Texans, then they play the Jags, then they play the Seahawks, then they play the 49ers, then they play the Jags again, and then they play the Texans again. That is like completely flopped from the first half of the season for the Indianapolis Colts. Outside of the Chargers and Rams game, they haven't really played anybody. I mean, you can maybe throw the Steelers in there too, but Ryan, I don't think this is anywhere near locked up in the AFC South. I mean, with them obviously playing twice here, both team you have 4 division games right there against each other in the next 8 weeks. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's by any means the Colts division like completely locked up. And honestly, I that's bad news in my opinion for the Chiefs with the Jags. Because if the Colts do end up holding on and winning the AFC South, the Jaguars have that head to head. And so if they hold it over the Chiefs and they keep the same record or better, that forces the Chiefs out. And I think between the AFC East being very competitive top 2 with the Patriots and the Bills, and then the AFC South being competitive with those 3 teams, realistically, I think it'll be just the Colts and the Jags going back and forth. I think the Texans will at least should lose to the Bills on Thursday without CJ Stroud. So I think that kind of knocks them out. But with 2 divisions having 2 very strong teams in the playoff hunt, and then you can even throw the AFC West in there the with the Broncos and the Chargers both being up there. It's going to be really interesting to see what the playoff picture looks like, and I think we might see some flip-flopping. If the Bills go on a tear, or if the Jaguars go on a tear here to close the season, I think we could see the Patriots get passed by the Bills, or the Jags pass the Colts to win the AFC South,
Mm-hmm.
and it could really have a lot of big implications for the playoff picture. with really those 3 wild cards being so up for grabs.
Yeah,
And we haven't
absolutely.
even talked about the Ravens potentially, kinda moving their way back up into it,
You
and then
stole my
the
thunder there,
Bengals
damn
aren't
it.
completely out of it.
Stole my thunder. That was the
Well, and then
next topic I was going to.
the Bengals, I don't think are completely out of it either. We're seeing Burrow coming back with the Steelers really only being like 2 or 3 games ahead in the division of anybody else besides the Browns. Now you get Burrow back for Thanksgiving to have him play the last whatever 5 games of the season. There's a potential that you have 3 AFC North teams competing to get in the playoffs.
If Joe Flacco and the Bengals are able to pull off the upset this week against the Patriots, which obviously is not a very high chance of that happening without Jamar Chase, if they are able to pull that off and move to 4-7, heading into technical Thursday night football on Thanksgiving against the Ravens, if Joe Flacco is able to play, if Joe Burrow is able to play, that just makes that division 100 times more interesting. The Aaron Rodgers injury is making this division 100 times more interesting. So none of these divisions are wrapped up, and we haven't even talked about the NFC yet. And the NFC is even more crazy than the AFC. The NFC North is an absolute battlefield. I mean, the Chicago Bears are 7-3. That is absolutely crazy to be saying out loud that the Chicago Bears are 7-3 this year. That's ridiculous. I just wanted to let that sit there for a second. That's ridiculous. Then the Green Bay Packers are 6-3-1. The Detroit Lions are 6, and then the Minnesota Vikings are 4-6. Yes, but they beat the Detroit Lions. They beat the Chicago Bears already. I don't think they've played the Packers yet. Don't quote me on that.
I don't
They have
think.
not played the Packers yet. They play them this week. Again, that division not locked up at all. The NFC South. Obviously, the Falcons and the Saints are out of it, but the Carolina Panthers, man, congrats to Troy. Troy's not on this episode today. You'll see him on the NBA one tomorrow. But I mean, they're right in this. They're a game back. They're 6-5. The Tampa Bay Bucks are 6-4. Yes, the Bucks. The Bucks have had a gauntlet of a schedule. I mean, wow. They did not get very lucky, and they're not gonna get any more luckier playing the Rams in Los Angeles on Sunday Night Football this coming week. And then the NFC West. 3 of the best teams in the NFC all in the same division with the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, and the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, I think I've said this every year we've done this podcast, but this is shaping up to be one of the better NFL seasons of my lifetime, at least. Just with, there hasn't really been a dominant team this year in the league. There isn't one team I can confidently say right now they're going to win the Super Bowl. Like the last couple of years,
No.
you could have said the Chiefs, you could have said the Eagles, you could have maybe said the Bills or the Lions or a team like that and been like, they're going to win the Super Bowl. This year, right now, the teams at top of the leagues, like the Broncos, like the Patriots, and then you got the Eagles and stuff like that. Those teams have played close games. I mean, 2 of those teams I just mentioned, I know because I'm a Giants fan and watching them play. We beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who are in first place in the NFC, or second place technically in the NFC. And then Denver Broncos, who were tied for first, we should have beat the Denver Broncos. So, I mean, the league is just so wide open right now. There's so many opportunities for teams. Unless you're basically the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, Las Vegas Raiders, Tennessee Titans, what other bad teams? Probably the Cardinals. You can probably throw
Falcons
them
now
in
with
there.
Penix out for the season.
Falcons with Penix out. Besides those teams right
Dolphins.
there, Dolphins are still technically in it, 4-7. They've got a chance if they can keep winning some ball games. I would keep. I would. They're right on the edge of this group, but I mean, besides those 8 teams, basically right there, this is wide open, and I'm so excited to watch it. I'm so excited to be a part of it and talk about it, and we appreciate you guys letting us talk about it. Sitting here talking shop, talking about football. So, Ryan, you got anything left to say here for this kind of short episode?
Yeah, they just put out the new college football rankings for the playoffs. So I was just going to go through those real quick. Ohio State stays number 1, Indiana stays number 2, A&M at 3, Georgia moves up to 4, replacing Alabama. Number 5 is Texas Tech, and if it was now, the new group of 5 representative is the Tulane Green Wave.
Wow, they put him in over James Madison. I haven't even seen these rankings yet.
They did. And then Notre Dame and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's your 8, Notre Dame's your 9. Ole Miss is your 6 versus number 11 Miami, and Oregon number 7 versus number 10 Alabama. So Alabama falls from 4 to 10, but stays in the playoff picture.
Wow,
So
they
that
moved
gives you one,
Alabama down
two,
that far. 5 SEC teams?
5 SEC teams. You got 3 Big Ten, 1 Big 12, 1 ACC, and 1 Group of 5 or Group of 4, Group of 5.
Jeez. Expect those
Honestly,
numbers to
I would
change.
not. Honestly, but I think you are gonna probably see at least 4, if not 5, SEC teams
Oh,
in this
100%.
bracket. If I'm being completely honest.
I'm saying expect a little movement, I think, on the Big Ten side, just because the Michigan-Ohio State game is still to be played. Obviously, the Oregon-USC game this weekend. Indiana's comfortably in. They play Purdue, and Purdue is awful. So, congrats, Indiana. You're going back to the college football playoff. Woo! Yeah, it should be very interesting over these next 2 weeks. There was a post about all the SEC title game possibilities, and I read 2 sentences of it, and I got so damn confused where I'm just, let it play out, and then we'll focus on it, because if I try and lean on all these different possibilities, I'm gonna lose it. So, especially with a team like Georgia, I don't know if they play this week. I don't think they have any SEC games left. Georgia does. So, we're not even gonna get into that because I'm just gonna confuse myself. So,
Well, but I just think it's interesting too because SEC Vanderbilt came in at number 14, Texas number 17, Tennessee number 20, Missouri 22. So you still, especially Vanderbilt, if you win a couple games and Alabama drops another one or somebody kind of higher up, I think Texas A&M and Georgia are pretty much a lock where they're at. But I think if an Alabama or one of those drops another game, or an Oklahoma drops another game, especially if Alabama loses the Iron Bowl night game at Auburn, if they lose that game, I think they drop out, and you could see a Vanderbilt potentially sneak in if Vandy wins their next 2 games. They've got Kentucky this next week, this next week. If they get a win there and then get a win the rivalry week, it wouldn't surprise me if Alabama lost and Vandy snuck in behind them instead.
yeah. Don't count Kentucky out. I was rooting against them for majority of this season until I watched Cutter Boley play football, and you know what? Screw it. Go Cats. Because obviously we got nothing to root for on the basketball side of things right now. This was supposed to be a college basketball episode today, but after that absolute ass whooping Michigan State gave Kentucky today, I couldn't even bring myself to talk about it. So, yeah. So expect a college basketball one here in the coming weeks. So hopefully, Kentucky will figure it out by then. They've got 2 nice, easy opponents here before Thanksgiving, and then they can, really figure it out before North Carolina and Gonzaga come to town, because right now they look like an NIT team. They do not look like a tournament team at all. So, with that being said, Ryan, you got anything left?
I don't think so. I think we hit on it all.
All right. So, with that being said, go check out the merch site, the TikTok, the YouTube, the Instagram, all those good links. All the links will be in the description here of the YouTube video, as well as in the link tree in the Instagram bio. The merch site is in there, the TikTok's in there, everything will be in the description and in the Instagram bio. So go check out all those places. We appreciate you guys as always. Be on the lookout for this episode. Be on the lookout for the NBA episode. We'll be back doing a little rivalry Thanksgiving episode next week, really focusing on all of those games. So many good sports next week: college basketball, Thanksgiving tournaments, Thursday, Thanksgiving NFL games, college games on Friday next week. So much going on next week, a lot of sports to talk about. So we're going to try and cover it all. Probably be a longer episode. I'm just forewarning you on that part. But with that being said, we appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.